As mentioned earlier, your trainers will weave in the concept of database decision making throughout the training sessions, and there's a specific module, Module 4, that covers this topic in depth. For now, we'll start with a brief vignette to demonstrate how data is used to support database decision making in a school where hallway noise is a concern. If this problem doesn't resonate with the kinds of student behaviors you commonly encounter, just remember that the process and strategies can be applied broadly. In our vignette, we have a small rural middle school that serves students grades 6 through 8. Staff are indicating that the noise in the hallway around lunchtime is highly disruptive to their teaching. The school has 3 lunch periods, and students need to walk directly by classrooms that are still in session to access the cafeteria. Unfortunately, the design of the school is such that the walls don't reach the ceiling, so closing the door doesn't block out the noise. This vignette is based on a research study related to implementation of school-wide PBIS before Swiss was developed. The team wanted to systematically address this problem, so their first step was to assess the extent or priority level of this issue. Again, there were not Swiss data, so the team took the problem to the faculty meeting and asked for a quick vote or a show of hands to indicate whether this was a high priority problem that the team would address. It was. Next, information was gathered about the current practices related to behavior in the hallway. At the beginning of the year, all students were taught the basic school-wide expectations, and being quiet in the hallway was included. A teaching assistant monitors the hallways as students go to lunch. Currently, the only strategy being used is to tell students to be quiet and to give out an occasional detention. Staff reported that the areas where the monitor was standing were quieter, but this quiet area didn't extend beyond a small bubble that moved as the hallway monitor did. Next, the team wanted to review data. There was someone on the team who entered referral data into an Excel spreadsheet and was able to generate graphs as requested. The first data that the school reviewed was the count of referrals by location. It was clear that lots of referrals were coming from the hallway, which supported the staff reports. Next, a graph was generated to show how many students had received referrals in the hallway and how many referrals each student had received. Many of you have already heard the PBIS rule of thumb regarding referrals, which is that a student with 0 to 1 referrals is likely to be successful with Tier 1 supports alone. Students with 2 to 5 referrals may potentially be candidates for Tier 2 interventions such as check and check out. And students with 6 or more referrals are likely to need more individualized or Tier 3 supports. However, another rule of thumb when looking at referral patterns is that when we have 10 or more students engaging in the same problem in the same context, it's likely to be a system level issue. This is true even if some or all of the students included are or should be receiving additional tiers of supports. Remember that we're focusing on problem solving at Tier 1, which means all students and staff are included in our data, and that we're looking for common problems that are better addressed by adjusting systems and practices across the school. If there are fewer than 10 students engaging the problem within the same context, then it's likely more efficient to address the small group or individual students, which often means the team is referring the problem onto grade level teams, individual teachers, or even the administrator. In this case, the team identified a system level issue and also identified a handful of students who may need to be referred for additional supports. Just to recap, here are the basic school-wide PBIS decision guidelines that this team adopted. For screening, they use the traditional guideline for looking at number of referrals per student. Your school might want to expand those to look at more than just major ODRs. The other guideline that was adopted was the rule of 10. If you have 10 or more students doing the same thing at the same time, then you have a system issue. If it's fewer than 10 students, then it's likely an individual or small group issue that we can address with those specific individuals. Please note that just because a problem is system level doesn't mean that it automatically becomes a priority. If we're in a school of 1,000 students, then 10 students engaging in a problem might not be the highest priority. It does, however, mean that our systems within that context could be improved if that issue was deemed a high enough priority. For hallway noise, we've already established that this is a priority. Once the available data were reviewed, the team continued their problem solving. Given that they didn't have much data beyond those two graphs, the team built a hypothesis to fill in the gaps about context and function or perceived motivation of the behavior. Contextual factors that the team discussed included that the students had been in class all morning and wanted to socialize. A few staff members also brought up that the students were allowed to be noisy at the beginning and end of the day, so it might be confusing that they had to be quiet during the day. And just as we discussed already, the team used the rule of 10 as a way to identify small group or individual problems from system level issues that included a large number of kids. Because the school was implementing school-wide PBIS, it was also important to the team members that their solution focuses on defining, teaching, monitoring, and rewarding before an increase in the use of punishment. When we break down what we know so far, here are the components. Who is engaging in the problem? It's a large number of students across the grade levels. What's the specific problem behavior? It's disruptive or loud and rowdy behavior. When is disruption most likely to occur? After morning class on the way to lunch? Where is it likely to occur? In the hallways. And why do we think it continues? To gain peer attention. The team also noted that the current strategy isn't working. The best solutions are usually the simplest possible. What's the smallest change we can make to produce the largest possible effect? The team decided to start by reteaching students the expectations in the hallway. All teachers were asked to provide a 5-minute review using a lesson plan provided by the team. Along with the review, the team asked teachers to also remind students just before they were released to be quiet in the hallways. The team also decided that if the hall monitor would dim the lights during the school day, it might be an additional preventative signal to students to be quiet. To monitor and reward quiet hallway behavior, the team used a decibel reader. Now you can download an app on a smartphone, and the hall monitor would record the average noise levels during the passing period each day for each grade level. The average would be posted publicly, and when the noise level stayed below 70 decibels for 3 consecutive days, the students in that grade level received an extra 5 minutes of social time during lunch. Identifying strategies is great, but unless we build an action plan to know who is going to do what by when, it's hard to know whether the components were really put into place. This team broke down the strategies into specific actions that need to happen, assigned the tasks, and identified a timeline where appropriate. Because this team was part of a research study, they collected both pre and post intervention data on noise levels in the hallway across grade levels. Baseline data show that the sixth grade students ranged between noise levels of 72 and 78 decibels. After the intervention, we see a drop. You may have guessed this already, but the criteria to obtain the reward was at 70 decibels. The sixth grade students didn't consistently meet the goal, but noise levels were much better. The seventh graders caught on right away, and there was a little testing, but it looked like they weren't willing to risk their extra 5 minutes. The eighth grade data looks similar, but a few more days right at 70 decibels. So what are the big takeaways from this vignette? We believe that this story reinforces the idea that giving the right information to the right people at the right time results in decisions that are better, faster, and cheaper than those made with little or no data. Specifically, we would posit that the right information includes data that are relevant and formatted for the audience, accurate in terms of representing the observations and perspectives across staff and are entered correctly, and timely, which means we're looking at up-to-date information that was easy and quick to access when it was needed. The hallway noise study, along with other research, ultimately led to the decision to create Swiss so schools would have what they needed to make good decisions. Now schools don't need an expert in spreadsheet creation and manipulation to access high-quality data about problem behaviors. However, it's good to remember that the work we do is built upon the many hours spent creating the kinds of spreadsheets and graphs we saw in the hallway noise vignette. Take a few moments and complete the checkpoint questions for this lesson.